Salut. Salut.
I think the idea behind the whole trip was to be able to take a group of Prin upper school students on a trip to France that would include many different disciplines. The obvious choices were art history, practical arts, drawing, the history component, which was my area, and of course, French.
We knew that all the sites we wanted to see in France were going to connect to the relationship between France and the United States and their interwoven historical, artistic, and architectural development.
Each one of us had a certain number of days that we had an opportunity to go into French 3 classes and present to them the kinds of connections that we thought they'd be able to make once they got there. That preparation, we think, was important, setting up the idea that, one, this is classroom work. This is not a field trip. This is not vacation. This is classroom, but not in a classroom. And the second thing was the idea that this is going to be a rich and broad experience where all these disciplines will interconnect with each other. The integration between what we were teaching them in the classroom before we left and what they experienced in the experiential outdoor classroom once we got there was key to making the most, I think, of this learning experience for these outstanding students.
My favorite activity was probably the Louvre.
My favorite part was probably going to Normandy, just because it was this really cool battlefield.
And the barbed wire from D-Day is still there.
Yeah.
My favorite activity was going to Giverny to see Monet's garden and being able to sketch there in that nature and just absorb it.
I really appreciated learning the Lord's Prayer in French because it just really gave me a greater understanding about just the universal nature of Christian Science.
It really secured my desire to be more fluent in French. Being in France where they spoke it all the time made me feel like it was much more natural and that I was learning it for a purpose. Like there are people who communicate that way.
It definitely feels a lot more applicable and useful in the world to see people actually speaking it every day.
Instead of just taking French 3, we're going to be taking French 3 but also have that cultural aspect of knowing what it feels like to be speaking French all the time.
I've been reading the evaluations that they've written about the trip, and I'm so inspired by how much they loved it and how much this has meant to them and how it changes the way they see themselves as students.
À bientôt.